Good morning, I'm PolarizedMoon and welcome to Casual Friday, the day where I play casual games in casual clothes. Today I'm playing a game called Dagon, or Dagon, or something along those lines. It's inspired by an H.P. Lovecraft tale, or it is an H.P. Lovecraft tale turned into a game, or something along those lines. So I decided, hey, it's spooky month, so why not do some spooky Casual Friday? So we're gonna get into it. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movements limited to progressing through locations along with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you'll encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder Sign. You can also access all the found facts later. They will be available in the main menu. Okay, so I have to focus on things and find the Elder Sign. Oh, I can only turn so far. Okay. Oh, there's the Elder Sign. Lovecraft's letters. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation, as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I cannot bear to talk much now, and am becoming silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner, December 3rd, 1917. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, about which only 10% survive to this day. But with a tendency to endless correspondence was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing. Thanking anybody for a present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. Selected letters 1929 to 1931, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them most important legacy. Interesting. Okay, cool. So not only is this an interactive version of one of his stories, we're actually getting some information about the author himself, which I don't actually know all that much about H.P. Lovecraft or his writings. I have played, I don't know, like 3 or 4 H.P. Lovecraft stories on the channel, mostly during Halloween times. But I think I've played like the old man, like something about the old man, and I don't remember. But I don't know all that much other than what I've experienced here on the channel mostly.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Oh.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
Okay. Oh.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Alright, so now I can look at things. Oh, there's one of the elder... Okay, that's progress. Morphine entered use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War I. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Sturner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. Ah, cool. I mean, not cool, but cool that we now have, that I know that information now.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
This is one of those that would be a really good, it might be a really good, like, VR experience, where one of those, like, seated VR experiences, you sit down and you can just kind of look around. I don't know if this is that. Oh. So I'm assuming there's going to be one of these on each of these. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt to enlist despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I chose a regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or pierce of shrapnel could more conclusively, effectively dispose of me. But even though he passed the physical exam, his mother prevented him from going to the war. She's threatened to go to many lengths, legal or otherwise, if I do not reveal all the ills which unfit me for the army. I am Providence, the life and times of H.P. Lovecraft's. Alright. So that's progress. Were those gunshots?
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to...
Oh, damn it. So their later degradation.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Okay, that's progress. There we go. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century. They are known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated in the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeit. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under the King Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way that in China that no Chinese ever will be dare look at the cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Alright. So I'm assuming there's one of those per, segment.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Oh, that's the progress. Is there not a hidden sign here? I would have expected there to be one. Maybe somewhere up in the stars? Or is there just not always one to be found? I would have expected... Well, maybe there isn't one. Alright, moving on. I don't want to linger too long.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Oh, that's progress. Are there no more elder signs? There's got to be somewhere, right? Oh, I can look way behind me. There must be some up in the stars somewhere. Alright, let's move on.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Aha! I see you. Return to short stories. Dagon was written in July 1917 and first published in 1919 in The Vagrant, an amateur magazine focused on the supernatural. The story is the first of his stories that introduced an element from the Cthulhu mythos, Dagon itself, A pagan cult worshipping Dagon later appears in The Shadow over Innsmouth, one of Lovecraft's most popular works. Oh, so this is the first Cthulhu story. 1917 is the year when he wrote The Tomb, a story about Jervis Dudley, a daydreamer who discovers a mysterious mausoleum in the woods by his house and becomes obsessed with it. These two works marked Lovecraft's return to short story writing after he burned most of his attempts at the genre 9 years prior and decided to concentrate on poetry. Lovecraft stated that it was his friend William Paul Cook, a literary publisher and critic, who convinced him to start writing weird fiction again. Ah, nice. Alright.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Oh, I can only look up. Oh, I can't even do anything there. Okay.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Ooh. Oh, great. Okay, that's progress. Oh, that's so weird. What is that? Okay. I don't see anything that I can Elder God up. Alright, I guess we're moving on.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
Yeah, I can see why.
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Oh. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about an unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake, supernatural horror in literature. And Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed of the whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells, in his own words. I've hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old, but I cannot recall that earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. Dweller in the darkness. So, what am I looking at here that will send us forward? Oh, can I look? Oh, I can look all the way back. Oh, man. What is that? Alright, moving on. Oh, I hate that sound. Oh.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
Oh, why is that? Oh, it's undulating.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Okay, that's progress. Do we have an elder sign anywhere? Aha! Volcanic eruptions sometimes result in the creation of islands. Most of them are transient and erode after some time, but some prove permanent. The floating pumice, porous rock created when superheated pressurized rock is ejected from a volcano, can move across long distances and transport barnacles and macroalgae that cling to it. In 2001, rafts of pumice created during the eruption of a volcano near Tonga eventually reached Australia. Alright. I love these little interjections.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Oh, there's like...
As the day progressed,
every so often I can see a tentacle like shadow
and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna...
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Okay. So I've learned that the elder sign isn't always immediately noticeable. So like I wonder if one of them is in the stars. Again, I don't know if there's one on every scene. Because if there is, I've missed a bunch of them, but I don't see any here. Oh wait. Oh, was that just that moving? All right. There's the pack.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Okay, there's progress. I don't see any more... Oh, that's that. Okay, alright, I guess we're gonna move on. I don't want to stay too long in each scene, just in case I you know...
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Oh, okay. Up until now, I've been able to at least generally identify all the things that I've come across. These I do not recognize in any way. Like, whatever these are, there's something different. Everything up until this point has been like, oh, I recognize this fish or this crustacean or whatever. I do not recognize these. Yeah, there's probably some of those signs hidden way up in the sky somewhere. Alright, moving on. Are they gonna get more and more, like, weird... Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a whale. Oh, yeah, like, what is that? I mean, I guess those could be the legs of a sea... like a Japanese sea spider or something. But I doubt it. Oh, there's no story here. This is just movement.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still traveled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, now we're starting to get into... Oh, hello. The Horrors of the Ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos in the fictional underwater city of Relia was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it unfathomable. Uninhabitable. Shush, I can read. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish have discovered so far. The Marinara snailfish can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet, below the ocean's surface, in never-ending darkness and in hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures and such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth and the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. Yeah. I mean, some of those creatures that I just saw might be things from the deep that I don't recognize.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. an intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Oh, I wasn't even allowed to.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Alright, that's... Oh, hello. Contrary to popular opinion, Lovecraft was not an ever-frowning, eccentric, grumpy loner. He considered himself to be a person who appreciated humor. Moreover, he would often meet with friends at his apartment or at various cafes in Brooklyn and Manhattan. At times, his social life was so intensive, his work would suffer for months. There was a point when he finally decided he needed to put an end to daily meetings and loitering in New York cafeterias and resorted to hiding at home and reading with the main room light turned off, pretending he wasn't there whenever a friend knocked on his door. He also had another method of deterring his guests, which involved greeting them in a bathrobe with an unmade bed visible in the background and piles of papers scattered across the floor. So he deliberately made himself look like a weirdo to get people to stop showing up at his house. Does deliberately...
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me.
So does deliberately making yourself look like a strange weirdo actually make you a strange weirdo, or are you acting like one? Like, that's another one of those things. It's like your people's perception of you is that you're a strange weirdo, and you're making yourself look out to be a strange weirdo. Does that make you a strange weirdo?
But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost.
Are we gonna get a thing explaining Paradise Lost?
And of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
I'm surprised we're not getting any... alright. I guess we're gonna...
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Okay. Good for you. I guess we're going down? I don't know if going down is a good idea.
Urged on by an impulse which
What
I
is
cannot
that?
definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler
There's a
slope
thing
beneath,
there.
gazing into the Stygian deeps,
The
where no
Stygian
light had
void.
yet penetrated. All at once, my attention
there
was
it is.
captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Oh, that's not progress forward. The moon should be behind me if it's making that kind of a reflection. Unless it's tilted. I guess that's another option. But that's alright, I'm surprised there's not another thing here. Alright, moving on.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Yeah, you got that right.
Closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
My god, it's full of stars. Alright, let's see. Is there another hidden thing around here somewhere? No? Alright, moving on.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Did you? There doesn't seem to be anything here other than a few rocks. Alright. Moving forward. Oh, what?
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
The Cyclopean monolith?
On whose
With one
surface
eye?
I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Alright, there's gotta be another... There's gotta be another thing around here somewhere, right? No? I'm still surprised that I haven't come across more. I bet there's one on each of these areas. Wait, did I thought I heard... No, maybe not. Okay, moving on.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
Oh, there's Cthulhu right in the center there.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
Oh, did they actually put creatures in here that weren't knowledge, or like, did, I wonder if some of these, I don't know at what time all of these things were discovered, but I wonder if some of these weren't discovered until after this was written, and they put them in to represent this line here. Things that are unknown to the modern world, but they exist.
But whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
That one, oh, hello. Storytelling methods. Cosmic Horror Scholar achievement unlocked. Did I find all of them? I may have found them all. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later work, such as telling the story through carvings, journals and characters' notes, islands emerging from the ocean, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's older stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Alright.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
Okay.
Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
The Piltdown man.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
Oh yeah, the moon is now not reflecting correctly. Again. Like, the moon's there, so the reflection should be here, but it's over there instead.
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Oh, that's why... Oh, that's why the moon isn't reflecting
With only
correctly.
a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Oh. Oh my god.
Fiend-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Oh.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Oh. Oh, this is disorienting. Oh wow, like the way that the camera moves now, it's like a fisheye lens. Okay, great. Oh.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Oh, fantastic. So is this guy the first of the cultists?
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Oh, we're... okay. Oh, that was creepy. Oh.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Delirious but free, and achievement unlocked.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Oh, hello. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in a decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example, written from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree that simultaneously to disarm one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until the basic impulses of human and animal shall have miraculously changed. Well, that's true. Ooh. Okay, I didn't like that.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Ah, okay. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. Dagon was a common noun for grain in Hebrew. The rulers of Akkad chose him as the patron saint of their conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in the Assyrian poem and the underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He's often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name. As in Hebrew, the word dag means fish. H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He's worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Interesting. Oh, there's progress. Okay. That's a surprising direction to go.
But
the
soon
Necronomicon.
perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Oh, there's several of them. The Marketeer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine, where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dresses, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, ripest scholarship, and mellowest craftsmanship which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low, and a trademark on the individual pieces prevents any substitution by careless contractors. Wow. I don't know if that rolls off the tongue that well. The August DERLETH and the Cthulhu Mythos. August DERLETH was an American writer and anthologist. He befriended Lovecraft and had published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he generally contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. DERLETH was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu Mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world as his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It's also worth noting that Lovecraft is never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu Mythos was coined by DERLETH after the author left the mortal plane. Okay. Where am I going now? I don't see any... Okay. Oh! Oh man, I can... Oh, what? Whoa, okay, hold on. That's... Okay, can I not click on this thing? That was weird. I don't know why it kept doing that. Oh. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it wasn't subject to wide debate. After the author used it in a story, critics pointed that man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted, in defense of Dagon, that Dagon were to be reprinted, he would insist use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the United States were of the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice. Among other things, it was gender-specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued only by one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and man of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym. Interesting. Oh, am I going somewhere else again? Yeah, looks like it. So I'm just kind of... Oh, we're back at the beginning.
Night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all. having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Alright, that's the end there, I'm assuming. Oh, here we go. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with a friend, Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th of February, 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to. Having had a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate, natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will, I am rather in favor of prohibition. Or prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as any other. The spirit of, blah blah blah, his books. Alright, so I guess we move on from here.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat, after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
Are we gonna see something huge?
Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
All right, there's forward. Oh, I can't even look at anything else. Oh, man. Oh,
the end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Is there anything else to look at? Out the window, maybe? No? Alright.
It shall not find me.
Oh, I'm gonna go out the window. Oh.
God, that hand.
Oh, oh my God.
The window. The window.
Whoa. Oh, that is so weird. Wait, is there anything else to look at real quick? Whoa, there's like... Oh, wait. Ah! I found one! At another house, there were people were stirring. He asked questions about the gods and whether they danced often upon Lyrian. But the farmer and his wife could only make the Elder Sign and tell him the way to Nir and Ulthar, the Dream Quest. Elder Sign is a protective symbol that can be found in various works of pop culture, usually represented by a 5-pointed star with an eye flame symbol in the center. For example, in games inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's writings, it is supposed to ward away all kinds of cosmic horrors. However, it is a later version of the sign, created by the author's friend, writer August Derleth. In our game, we have used the original symbol designed by Lovecraft in the form of a 6-pointed branch, which he sometimes included in letters to his friends. Interesting. Oh! There it is. Oh, that didn't sound good. Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed the immersing yourself in a little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out the other games and DLCs. Ooh, I would love to do that, but... Oh, that is so weird looking. Oh, that's it. So did I get all the trivia? Oh, I missed 3 of them. Alright, well, either way, that's about the time I've got for this episode. Like and subscribe if you like the episode, ring that bell if you'd like to see more. Good night. And this game is free on Steam if you want to go check it out. Find those other pieces that I missed. And tell me if you found everything. Good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye!